Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today as we do an virtual investigation on what is Earth Day. This presentation is going to be no more than about 40 minutes, and it's all about Earth Day, Earth Month, Earth Week. What is it? Why do we have it? Why is it important? And what are some ways that you can get involved this Earth Day? My name is Michelle Garcia, and I am the Educational Programs Coordinator for the Open Space Authority. This year is the Open Space Authority's 30th anniversary. Woo, we made it to 30 years. We've spent the past 30 years protecting water, wildlife, working lands, and connecting people to nature. And it's kind of what my job is, to help connect people to nature. I help coordinate free educational programs every month, every week. This is a part of a virtual program, kind of regularly occurring program that we do. The first Friday of every month, there is a free virtual program. So if you like this, tune in next month. We'll have more and more nature-related topics to educate y'all on. And of course, we do free programs at our preserves all the time as well. So if you're curious about more of that, check out our events. I'd also like to acknowledge that we at the Open Space Authority work within lands that were originally stewarded by the Awaswas, Chochenyo, Mutsun, and Tamian-speaking peoples. Today, we are honored to partner with the Ama Mutsun Tribal Band and the Mwekma Ohlone tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area in our shared work to protect and restore the environment and connect people to land. Today, as we talk about Earth Day, this becomes especially relevant. Connecting people to nature and to land that they are nearby is a huge theme in Earth Day. So I again want to thank you all for joining me today, and thank you for our partners that support us. So let's dive in. Happy almost Earth Day. Earth Day is celebrated on April 22nd every year. Today is April 6th, the Friday, and so we are about 2 weeks away from the official Earth Day. Hooray! Earth Day is April 22nd every year, but also the week leading up to Earth Day is often considered Earth Week, and then the month of April is also considered Earth Month. So happy Earth Month, happy Almost Earth Week, and happy Almost Earth Day. Again, today we're going to be talking about what does it mean to celebrate Earth Day, and also some context and some history behind why Earth Day is so important. So, what is Earth Day? Earth Day is not only a day to celebrate the planet, but also a day to recognize how we can protect it. It's a day to kind of realize that our planet is a changing place and our ecosystems can be greatly impacted by our actions. And so it's not only a day to recognize and celebrate the environmental accomplishments and advocacy work that has been done to protect our environment, but also a day to kind of look inward and figure out, what can I be doing to help protect the earth and protect these ecosystems? And then also, first and foremost, Earth Day is a day of celebration. It's a day of gratitude towards the earth. Today, Earth Day is a national, international day of celebration. Not quite an official holiday, but maybe one day it'll be. It is celebrated in over 130 countries. Millions of people celebrate every year on April 22nd. It is largely kind of organized by the Earth Day Network, although plenty of people celebrate independently. Every year, the Earth Day Network sets up a theme for Earth Day and for a lot of the organized events. This year, the theme is Invest in Nature. So we're going to talk about kind of what it means to invest in nature. Why do we have a whole designated Earth Day network to protecting the Earth? I think as we dive into kind of the history behind Earth Day, it'll add some especially important context for why, especially in like modern Western culture, we celebrate Earth Day. So why is Earth Day important? Firstly, I think it's important to recognize that Earth Day is celebrated around the world, as it should be, because it is partially celebrating that one commonality that we all have on Earth, that we all live on Earth and will only live on Earth. It is a day to celebrate and show gratitude toward our home. This planet can and will be impacted by our actions, and has been largely impacted by our human actions. The Earth has endured a lot. It's endured widespread deforestation, pollution, climate change, drought, flooding, habitat loss, and more. And so it's endured a lot, and it definitely deserves to be celebrated that the Earth is still here and providing us resources, and that we are still here to enjoy those resources. It's also an important day to remind communities and individuals about the role they play. Now, obviously, some of these kind of environmental disasters that have occurred in recent years have had human hands that have kind of pushed the Earth towards these environmental disasters. And so it's important, I think, for humankind to realize, especially for modern humans that maybe live in cities and aren't in touch with nature, to realize that even individual actions and large-scale community actions have an impact on their ecosystems. How will those actions impact the Earth? Why do those actions impact the Earth? Those questions are important questions to ask on Earth Day. It's also an important day to recognize that not only do our actions negatively impact the Earth, but if we are intentional and smart, we can actually have actions that are positively affecting the Earth. Our ecosystems in our world are changing constantly, whether it's maybe they're changing with the weather or with the seasons. Maybe climate change is changing them. Wildfires are changing them. I think it's important to take time to appreciate what we have, how it's changed, and how it will continue to change in the future. I think one great example of this is this picture that I have here. I did use this in a virtual program we had last month, so you might recognize it. This is a photo of up in a preserve that the Open Space Authority manages in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And it is a huge hillside, kind of a huge area where a wildfire came through in 2016, 2017. As you can see, there's a lot of like bare open ground and a lot of these like charred black sticks sticking up out of the ground. And once upon a time, prior to this wildfire, this was a lush, thriving ecosystem. There were huge trees and bushes and lots of life on these hills. And then once the wildfires came through this area, I keep saying wildflowers because there are wildflowers on the screen, my bad. Once the wildfires came through this area, this landscape was completely changed. It was scorched. It looked like a completely different planet. This photo, though, was taken in 2020, and you can already see there's tons of bushes and wildflowers already regrowing and changing this landscape once again. So this landscape now looks different than it once did. It will continue to change as well. Our human impacts, our human actions can really have a big effect on our international climate, on our global climate, but also on our local communities and ecosystems. I currently live in the Bay Area. The Open Space Authority works out of San Jose, which is like the South Bay Area in California. And I think especially, in this really urbanized area that I live in, and probably some of you live in, and especially coming out of the pandemic, people feel especially disconnected, not just with each other, but also with nature. We spend a lot of time indoors staring at screens and really worrying. And there's a big disconnect. It feels like humanity is separate from nature when that's completely not true. For thousands of years, these lands have been stewarded by people and taken care of by people. Our actions and our impacts on nature today don't have to be negative impacts. They can be really positive impacts. And in fact, if we don't start having positive impacts on our Earth, very soon, there can be some really big changes. And so this impact and this changing landscape that we see, these changing amounts of resources, I think it's important to take time to take stock and really show gratitude for what we have right now, knowing that in 10, 5, 10, 20 years, it will not be the same. And we can have a role, we can play a role in how it changes. So, that's kind of what Earth Day means to me. And like I said, to really understand why Earth Day exists in the way it does now, I think it's important to take a look at some historical context as to how and why Earth Day was created. So to do this, we're going to have to take a trip back in time, all the way 50 years ago to the 1960s. In the 1960s, kind of the general American public, or the mainstream American public, wasn't really aware of like how environmental impacts happened or how their actions affected the environment. And lastly, they also weren't really aware how the environment could affect their daily lives. This kind of all came to a head with Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. This was a New York Times best-selling book that was published in 1962. And it was purchased by the hundreds of thousands of Americans heard about this, read about this. And in this book, Rachel Carson really illustrates very well how humans impact nature, but also how those impacts can turn and have negative impacts on the modern industrialized society. She pointed out how our waterways were being polluted and how people were not having access to clean water, how our airways were polluted and not having access to clean water. And some of you may know Rachel Carson's book for also pointing out how pesticides were affecting our environment and how those pesticides were spreading and being eaten by people and negatively impacting people. She really cleanly and really well illustrated how our careless impacts on nature were also negatively impacting the society at the time. And as the 1960s continued, this idea of air pollution and water pollution really started to grow. Also in the 1960s, there was a few environmental disasters that also helped to bring this issue to light. There was a river in Ohio that caught fire because it was so polluted. Air pollutants and smog was just kind of a normal occurrence. And people really began to open their eyes to recognize these environmental impacts and how they were hurting like the modern society. And so this movement is building and building throughout the whole decade of the 1960s. And really kind of was just topped off in January of 1996, when there is a huge oil spill that happened off the coast of Santa Barbara. At the time, this oil spill was the largest oil spill to happen in United States waters. And I mean, people wanted action, people wanted change. This was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, and the nation was kind of ready to see change when it came to our environmental practices. Not just were the general public aware of this, but politicians and environmental activists also saw this enthusiasm as a time to finally make something happen. I also want to note that this oil spill that happened in Santa Barbara in 1969, at the time it was the largest oil spill to happen in United States waters. It is now only the third largest. There have been two more since then, just FYI, or two more larger ones since then. And so with all of that momentum carrying in to this new decade, the 1970s, politicians and activists saw this momentum and knew it was time to kind of seize the day. And this kind of started the first unofficial Earth Day. So this huge oil spill takes place in January of 1969, and there's huge unrest. People want to see action. And so Wisconsin Senator Gaylord Nielsen was one of the big pushers of this movement, along with other politicians and activists, they organized a campus teach-in. And this teach-in happened across the country, across America. And it's basically a time where they wanted to engage college students and raise awareness about air and water pollution and the effects that was happening on the environment and the way that pollution was affecting the modern society. And so, because they wanted to do this teach-in and engage college students, they wanted to go onto college campuses in class and teach about these issues. It was also especially important to them to reach college students because there was also a huge anti-war movement and many protests and rallies happening against the war happening at the time. And so they wanted to kind of, immerse that action in that passion also with the environmental movement of college students. And so they were targeting college students for this. And to pick a date that was best for college students, they picked April 22nd. It was the time between spring break and before finals, and it was a weekday at the time. And so they decided that was a good day to engage college students about the environment and about the awareness of pollution and how it's affecting our Earth. This was a great success. They really were able to engage this student population and their passion for this topic. And they knew they wanted to not just reach college-level students, but all of America. And so as the next year became, looking into 1970, they wanted to do more. And that is how we get 1970, April 22nd, as the first official Earth Day. 1969 was technically an Earth Day, but it wasn't. It was like an environmental teach-in, but this is the first time we have a gathering dedicated and called Earth Day, which was celebrated across the country. There's an estimated about 20 million Americans that celebrated this first Earth Day. And this was a record-breaking, groundbreaking amount of protests and demonstrations that happened across the nation. It was not only really notable because of the size and the sheer magnitude of the people that arrived for this day to celebrate Earth Day and to celebrate the environmental movement, but it was also a huge gathering of different political parties, of people of different backgrounds, different races, rich, poor, even large industries came and decided they wanted to help support the Earth Day movement. And so because of that, this was a historic day of observation of Earth Day. And it was maybe not because of, but this specific celebration of Earth Day really fit a theme for the rest of the 1970s. I think when a lot of people, today, I think back onto the 1970s, they think of it as like people were trying to be closer to nature, and there was a lot of protests. And this April 22nd, the first Earth Day, really kind of kicked it off. So what happened after? There was this huge civil unrest. People are calling for action, and they were able to get it in some ways. The 1970s saw the creation, after the first Earth Day, 1970s saw the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency, which helped protect the environment in the ways of regulating large industries in the way they could pollute and input their debris onto the earth. It created the National Environmental Protection Act, the National Environmental Education Act. It improved and updated the Clean Air Act. They created the Clean Water Act and the Endangered Species Act, and a bunch more. This decade was really marked by a lot of legislation focused on protecting the environment. And a lot of that was largely thanks to the action of the people at the time. So Earth Day continued to grow and grow. And by the 1990s, Earth Day was celebrated around the world by 200 million people in about 183 countries. It really became a kind of landmark movement. So, and that brings us to Earth Day today. This Earth Day, April 22nd, I definitely encourage you to celebrate. Yeah, like I said, a lot of people recognize Earth, the week leading up as Earth Week, and April as whole Earth Month. But it is something really cool about April 22nd being a day where the entire globe celebrates and shows gratitude for the Earth. It's kind of cool to recognize that on that day, if you are in the outdoors and thinking about your role in the planet, you're joined by millions of other people doing the same thing. This year, as I mentioned, Earth Day, the theme for Earth Day is Invest in Our Planet. Every year, the Earth Day Network picks a different theme, such as climate change, recycling, awareness. This year, and actually last year, had the same theme as this, Invest in Our Planet. And they decided to make this year the same theme because it is a very important theme. But also, it feels kind of vague. Invest in our planet. When you hear the word invest, you might think of investing in stocks or investing your money in bonds or, something like that. But what does it mean to invest in our planet? Well, I'm so glad you asked. It means different things to different communities. Obviously, the best way to help our environment is to kind of look first locally at how we can protect and support our local ecosystems. So for the Open Space Authority, investing in our planet means thinking of nature as infrastructure. So what does that mean? Viewing nature or thinking of nature as infrastructure means working with nature and not against. Looking for nature-based solutions and recognizing that healthy lands create healthy economies. I know that was a lot of kind of vague wording, but it means really good. So what does this actually look like? One example that I can give you of nature as infrastructure is this photo that you see right in front of you. This photo is of a place called Laguna Seca. The road on your left-hand side of the screen is called Santa Teresa Boulevard. If you live in South San Jose, you might be very familiar with this. If the photo was even bigger and you could look even further to the left, Highway 101 would not be very far away. And so this area is in Coyote Valley. And as you can see, it looks like a huge pond, but this is actually a seasonal wetland. This photo was taken this January when we had tons of rain and flooding. And as you can see, there isn't water on the road. Instead, there is water in Laguna Seca, in the natural occurring wetland. And that is intentional. Once upon a time, back in the early 2000s, this whole area was slated for development to build large warehouses, industrialized buildings, perhaps housing. But as you can see, come this most recent rainstorm, all of that area would have been flooded. And all of those buildings and homes and businesses would have been ruined. People would have had to move or take up shop and relocate their possessions and their lives. But because we have allowed nature to do nature's thing and use this area as a floodplain and a natural wetland, we've been able to prevent that flooding in other areas. There aren't any buildings up right here getting flooded. The road is not flooded. And that's because we are using nature as infrastructure here. We are allowing nature to do nature's thing and find nature-based solutions so that flooding does not happen where it's not supposed to. Instead, flooding has happened exactly where it's meant to happen. There are other ways that this also works out to create healthy economies, such as how we farm and grow our food, protecting healthy soil, and using organic materials to protect the ecosystem helps create better food that is healthier for you and me, and also creates healthier landscapes for the animals and the plants and all the little microbiomes that live in the soil. Having large areas like you see in front of you where water can gather also helps recharge our underwater aquifers, which means there is more drinking water and more fresh water on Earth. Having more green open spaces and trees means that our air is cleaner and better for us. And lastly, protecting open spaces like this also means that we have an outlet and a way to connect to nature. I think we really often underestimate kind of the healing ability that nature has for us. Like I mentioned, a lot of us are kind of stuck inside, especially in the Bay Area. We're stressed and we're doing really important work. But our mental health can kind of take a back seat sometimes. And also our ability to connect to other people can take a back seat. And nature has this really remarkable way of really grounding and centering you and allowing you, to breathe a little bit better and to seek happiness and freedom. And also can help you connect to other people in the outdoors. So there's a ton of really great benefits to protecting nature and working with nature and not against. And so that's kind of what it means to invest in nature or kind of view nature as infrastructure. We want to work with nature and not fight it. Nature is not a thing to be dominated and groomed and colonized. If we really want to appreciate the Earth this Earth Day and appreciate our ecosystems and celebrate it, it means it's time to reshape our thinking and really see all of the value that nature has to offer just by being itself. So obviously those are kind of really big examples of how we can invest in nature and celebrate the Earth, but how can you celebrate this Earth Day and invest in nature? I will say, one way that you might not even realize is that if you pay tax dollars, you are already funding amazing local organizations like state parks, national parks, or state parks, national parks, county parks, and city parks, which are all really great organizations working to protect nature and giving you the ability to connect with nature better. So you are already investing in nature just by living here. Another way to celebrate nature this Earth Day is to just get outside and connect to nature. As I've mentioned before, kind of the main theme that really inspired Earth Day and the theme that we are kind of thinking of this year with Earth Day, investing in nature, is recognizing how our actions impact the Earth and how those impacts then affect our lives. We're not separate from nature. We are meant to be here. And so connecting to nature, recognizing that we are all together on one Earth is a really important thing to do. So get outside, go for a walk, go to a local park, get on Google Maps, see if there's any local parks that you can walk to. If there's not a park that you can walk to, try taking public transit or riding your bike, or just spend out some time outside, feeling the sun on your face and recognizing that even that is a gift. I know, especially this week, it's finally stopped raining in the Bay Area, and I've never been more grateful to see sunshine and feel it just warm my face. So get outside and enjoy springtime. And really, as you do that, realize that you are not working against nature. We are all working together in one planet. Another great way to celebrate Earth Day and invest in nature is to educate yourself about the Earth and your local communities. But look at you, you're already watching this program, you're educating yourself, you're doing so great. You're celebrating Earth Day in so many different ways. So educate yourself about your Earth and also educate yourself about your local ecosystems. Just recognizing the uniqueness of your own ecosystem that you live in can help inform your actions and decisions better and help you promote good ways to support the Earth. You can also donate your time and volunteer to help restore the Earth. There are a ton of national and local agencies that are working to restore and protect your ecosystems and celebrate the Earth. And so donating your time and volunteering for one of those restoration projects is a great way to help support the Earth. And lastly, the day of Earth Day on April 22nd, you can celebrate in an Earth Day event. Now, again, of course, we want to be mindful of the earth all the time, but there is kind of something really special about on April 22nd, people from across the world come together to show gratitude for the earth. And so I think it's cool to kind of do something a little extra special to celebrate the earth on Earth Day. If you are in the San Jose area and looking for a cool event to participate in, I might recommend visiting us at the Open Space Authority. We are throwing a little Earth Day celebration in Coyote Valley. Excuse me. You can join us for a quick hike around Coyote Valley, up to the top of the hill with beautiful sweeping 360-degree views. And we'll tell you all about this local ecosystem and why it's important. And then you can also, at that event, meet me, which I'm pretty cool, as well as all of our other staff and other organizations in the area working to protect the earth. If you are not local, you can also check out earthday.org. That is the official website for the Earth Day Network. And again, that is an international project. And so they will literally be able to help you find events and ways to get involved around the world, no matter where you're at. If you go to earthday.org, you will be able to find ways to give back and ways to celebrate. But of course, since we are not just celebrating Earth Day on one day, what are some Earth conscious habits that you can start integrating in your day-to-day life? Hold on, water break. Good stuff. If you're wondering, yes, that is me in the left-hand photo. I'm helping at one of our restoration events that we have. We have a bunch of restoration events every month. This one was a planting project that we were working on. So, earth conscious habits that you can integrate into your everyday life. One great way to give back to the earth is to grow plants and or garden. I know if you're like me, I love spending time in the outdoors, but I'm very bad at growing things and supporting living plants, especially in my house. It can be a rough time. And so at least attempting to grow these plants or sometimes grow my own food can help me really appreciate the earth and how just these ecosystems naturally support all of this plant and animal life. When I struggle to even support the like really easily house plants. I know last year I grew a bell pepper plant and I was able to produce one very, very tiny bell pepper. And I was so very happy. It definitely made me feel much more grateful for the earth and grateful for where I get my food from. So even if you're not like me, even if you're like me and you're not successful in growing food and plants, it can be a really good practice to help you learn gratitude. Or you could keep at it and get really good at it. And then you can grow your own food and appreciate your own little plants. And that would be great. If you grow plants in your apartment or in your house, it can also help regulate the temperature. It'll help like keep your house warm and or cold in the hot summer season that we'll have coming up. And so that'll save you on electricity too. So, great tips. Also helping to conserve water. Take shorter showers, turn the faucet off when you're not using it. It feels like kind of a small thing, but it actually does make a big impact if you continue to do it. And of course, intentionally reduce, reuse, and recycle. It can be really easy to buy things and then throw them away immediately after. But just taking a second to be a little bit more intentional about what you buy and when, and just even when you throw it out. Can you reuse this somehow? Do you have to throw it out right now? Can you just clean it and save it for a different thing or repurpose it? And again, you don't have to, completely change everything that you're doing. Even just little moments or little day-to-day things can help build up a lot. Another great thing to do is to start taking more public transit and or riding your bike to different locations. You can buy your food from local farmers. This is actually a big one. Taking even like if you drive once a week or once a week every month to try and buy your groceries from a farmer's market or a local farm stand. That helps reduce gas emissions. And also, a lot of local farmers can produce organic and more sustainable food. So that's a great way to support them. Of course, you can shop sustainably. The clothing industry can be really wasteful. And so either buying used clothing or buying from sustainable brands can be a great way to reduce your input on the earth. And of course, another great way to celebrate Earth Day every day is to talk to your friends. Tell your friends about all the different ways they can get outside and enjoy the earth. Uh, Go on hikes with your friends. Tell them about all the different plants and trees that you see. If you ever go on a hike with me, you'll notice really quickly that I stop constantly. I hike really slowly because I'm always noticing all the little things and the plants and the leaves. So talking to your friends about the earth and about ways you can protect it, and also just practicing gratitude for the earth and realizing that you are connected and a part of this ecosystem is another great way to protect the earth and celebrate Earth Day every day. So thank you so much for joining me today. Obviously, I'm not there live with you right now, but if you have any questions, you can email me at mgarcia@openspaceauthority.org. Once again, that's mgarcia@openspaceauthority.org. You can find me at mgarcia@openspaceauthority.org. You can email me your questions or just email me about different opportunities you can use, different opportunities that we have to get involved. Or if you're interested in learning more or joining us on a guided hike, you can email me at that email as well. So thank you again once more for joining me. Earth Day and Earth Month of April is definitely a really special time. And I hope you're able to find a way to connect with the earth better and to also learn a little bit more about why Earth Day is so important. Again, we have a free virtual program at least once a month. So join us in May for the first Friday of the month, and we'll do another virtual program just like this. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you on the trail soon. Bye, everyone. Bye.